And we're going to talk about Northern Rivers next because they're doing some really wonderful things as well. We have Jenny and Jolene here, and we're going to be talking about fostering. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How difficult is it to find foster homes? Jolene?
Well, it is challenging. It's a very big commitment. There's quite a process to go through to become certified, and then there's a big commitment after with bringing children that you don't know and you don't necessarily know a lot about their background sometimes into your home, and they are your family member and they exist in your home just as everybody else does. So it's like having a kid overnight. They're just there all of a sudden.
Should you have other children when you foster, or can you just foster without having children? How does that, or can you be a senior citizen and foster? Tell me a little bit more. You're with Gloversville, right?
Yep.
You're with Schenectady, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We have a variety of different types of foster parents that are part of our world. People come who are of different ages. You have to be at least age 21 and older. We have people into their 70s and 80s sometimes fostering, whether they're doing full-time foster care, so that's every day, all day, just like your own. Yep, just like as if you had your own children. Or we have people who provide respite foster care, so that might be giving another family a break, doing it for maybe a weekend or maybe just a week while the other family has to go. We have people who work full-time and can be foster parents. We also have people sometimes who are stay-at-home people or who are retired. Retired people are usually involved in lots of things, but they also have different flexibility sometimes.
Yeah, they probably have a little bit more time to spend even.
They do sometimes, yeah.
And they're empty nesters. They want to fill it back up.
That little void.
Yeah.
Tell me, if someone wanted to, they're watching the show right now, and they said, we've got plenty of space here. Maybe we'll foster a child or two. Maybe they're twins or something like that. What would they have to go through? And I don't know who wants to answer that, but I'll let somebody pick it up.
So they could go to our website, northernrivers.org, and there's a form you can fill out on there to inquire about becoming a foster parent. And what happens after that is it's separated by your location. So whoever is in charge of your location, it would be sent to that home finder, and they would contact you. And we usually set up orientation events, whether it's individual or we do a lot of virtual ones now as a group, and talk about the process and what's involved. And then we move on, if they want to continue, and move on to certification classes. I don't know if maybe you want to talk about a little bit of the process.
Do you check the home at all to see?
Yeah.
I mean, because you want to know you have space.
There's lots of different pieces
Yeah.
with that. We do home visits, we do home inspections, because there has to be, like you said, space, but there also has to be safety in the home. We also have to get to know people a lot. We're trusting them with other people's children who have been sometimes in some really difficult situations. So we have to kind of know more about the families and more about the people themselves, and we spend time doing that. Our training class is a 10-week training class. It's a new curriculum as of this year that New York State has put out. It's the NTDC training. And we do 10 hours, 3 hours a week, and we do it virtually right now, which can be helpful because people can be at home and do that, which sometimes can be helpful for those people who might have their own kids.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it also allows us to bring people in from different offices. So, Jolene and I have a little bit of a distance in between our offices, but ultimately, we train and cross-train people from all the different offices. We take turns.
Do you do background checks?
We do. Yep.
We check criminal history, we check the child abuse registry, and then we also check the Justice Center, which is like the abuse registry for group homes, ARCs, and such. So we do look into all of that. There's a process where you have to be cleared by a medical provider as well to ensure that you are capable, and if you need any kind of accommodations. Medical conditions don't generally rule people out, so I don't want that to scare anybody away, but we are aware of just general health and make sure that you're doing well and stuff like that.
Good.
So, yeah.
So you're checking, so you do a pretty thorough check before you do that. Now,
Yeah.
once they're approved, how long do the children stay with them? Is it like forever, or is this temporary until the parents, the biological parents, get their lives in order? I mean, I don't know what, I don't know who goes into foster is what I'm asking.
So kids come into foster care as a result of abuse and neglect, and the number one goal when they come into foster care is to reunify with their family. And so
So what happens, I mean, I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
How do you get the parents, if they've had issues, is there counseling for them, or what goes on?
So they work in partnership with our agency and their county that they're working with, and they basically have a list of items that they need to do that's given to them by the judge that they need to complete. So maybe they need to complete parenting classes, they need to have safe, stable housing, those kinds of things they need to show that they can provide for their children safely. If they have substance use
I was gonna say
challenges,
substance or alcohol. What do you
yeah,
do
they
about
usually
that?
have to have some kind of evaluation by professionals, and then they have to follow guidelines and recommendations from those professionals as well. And they do legally have about a year and a half to complete all of these things while their child is in foster care.
Okay, so the child might be in foster care for about a year or more. Do you make any attempts to get them into with family members, like say a sister-in-law or a grandmother or something like that?
There's a huge push on that, and especially with New York State, there's a Safe Families Act, and ultimately we're really looking to make sure that families are being looked at, and that can be families that are blood-related families, it could be families by marriage, it could be somebody who's a really close friend of the family and stuff.
We've had
too.
teachers
Have
teachers,
stepped up,
yeah.
And so we consider those, kinship placements and everything, and some of those placements.
And those work as well.
They do. We
Yeah.
have a number of them in our agency, and so ultimately we also have sometimes our traditional foster families where they might get kids in their care for a period of time until that relative can be found. So it might be that children are with our traditional family shorter because they are going to a relative resource.
So the kids then can go back to their parents if their biological parents, if it all works. What if
Correct.
it doesn't work?
So where the timeline comes into play is the federal law states that the parent has 15 out of the most recent 22 months to complete their terms and condition and bring their children home. If they do not complete it, or they have not made substantial progress during that time, then the county is legally required to file a termination of parental rights.
Okay.
In an effort to what we call free the child legally for adoption. The parents are then also presented with the option to voluntarily surrender their rights, and generally if they voluntarily surrender, they are also given some kind of contact conditions post-surrender so they can continue to have
Supervised.
contact, yes. And then generally, foster parents who have been caring for the child for 2 years, probably at this point,
They can adopt.
they are offered to adopt as long as there's no family that's come forward. And then we work with the counties to help facilitate and complete the adoptions.
Is this a big problem?
Yes.
There's a huge need for foster parents.
It's pretty sad
There's,
to hear this.
there's a lot of situations that occur, that are difficult, and families are struggling. There's different reasons families struggle too. It's not just,
end up
drugs,
homeless,
alcohol.
and then
It's
what do you
it's
do?
economics sometimes. It's just those struggles, and one thing kind of pushes the envelope, and it snowballs at times. So there are things and choices, the families of these children, ultimately, we're kind of seeing them in some of their hardest spots, but also sometimes.
Oh yeah, because you wouldn't have seen them otherwise.
Yeah,
right?
and the hard part is, though, sometimes they were doing a lot better than maybe what they might even had themselves. The hard part is it might not be safe enough, or there might need to be a little bit more, and they need extra support. And the reality is the foster parents that we're looking for are people in the same communities as those kids. We
You don't
want,
want to take them out of their schools.
we ideally want to keep them in the same place if we can, because the more transition they have, the more difficult that can be.
Well, and so anyone that's watching right now that might be interested in fostering, a child. There is a process. It's not going to be, you're not going to walk in and say, I'll take that one or that one. I mean, it's you know,
Yeah.
they're not in cages there that you pick them up,
No.
you know.
Yeah, I usually like to tell people, like, it is a process, but view it from the opposite side, that if for some reason your child or your family member had to go in a foster home,
What would
you
you
would
want?
want to make sure that, you know, they were vetted, so to speak, properly. So that's why, you know, sometimes it feels intrusive, because we need to get a lot of information to make sure we're making appropriate
You're
placements.
absolutely right, because it's protected. I mean,
And it
I
can
guess
happen
used
to
be called
anybody,
protective
you know?
foot,
Yeah,
so-
yeah, it can happen to anybody.
So if you're interested, you go to
NorthernRivers.org, yeah.
.org, and you can find out how you could foster, and maybe this will be the gift that you didn't know you were ever going to receive.
Yes.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Jolene, and I want Jenny and Jolene here. One is from Schenectady, and one is from Gloversville. So I'm sure that you'll find homes for some.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All,
Thank you.
maybe.
Yes.
Thank you so much both for being here and raising the awareness of foster care and how important it is and for our entire community.
Yes, yes. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for being